Hi, welcome back. I hope you're doing well. In this video, I wanted to do a part 2 to my previous video, When the Narcissist Dies. And in that first video, I talked a lot about the emotional fallout from the narcissist's passing, but there's a lot more, and I wanted to touch on those things as well. There's a lot of logistical things that happen when the narcissist dies, and we're going to talk about that. How does the narcissist's death impact you logistically? Well, one of the things that I thought of is because a lot of times narcissists will lead very transient lifestyles, especially if over an extended period of time they've burned a lot of bridges, they've trashed a lot of their relationships. They may spend their final days bouncing around, moving around, place to place, state to state, person to person, living with different family members, friends, couch surfing, you name it. So with that, it can be difficult to retrace their steps, literally. You may have to travel out of town and go to different places in a different city to locate their things, to retrace their steps, to shut down whatever affairs they had going on from a business standpoint or that type of thing. And it can be very exhausting, very draining, but also it can give you some insights as to how the narcissist lived out their final days. If the narcissist died a sudden death, it can be very unexpected, and you may have to, along with some of their other survivors, make some very difficult decisions, and very quickly. I remember when my dad passed away, he passed away in Los Angeles very suddenly, and I had to go to the gym where he was found unconscious. I had to go to the homeless shelter to go get things from there. I went to the morgue to get the effects that they had that were on him at the time of his death, and also asked them, okay, can I see him? And it can be very painful, very chaotic, and it can have you literally running all over the place. The other thing I wanted to touch on is the fact that because narcissists often are afraid of death, they don't want to talk about it, they don't want to think about it, they also don't want to plan for it. And that can make things very difficult for survivors, because suddenly whoever the closest living relative is has all of the narcissist's affairs, unfinished business, bills, all of that fly in their faces. And I've seen that happen up close and personal. And all of a sudden you may be faced with decisions, quick decisions and expensive decisions about what kinds of arrangements to make for the narcissist, what to do with the body. You may have to close out certain things like PO boxes, or, move their stuff out of wherever they were living last, clean out storage units. When you're dealing with other family members, it can be very challenging because everybody may not agree on what to do. Should we have an imam say some prayers and some words and wrap them in herbs and cloth? Or should we just do a cremation and have some friends and family members say some words? What do you do? A lot of times what it comes down to is who's paying and what's going to be most affordable and makes the most sense, and how quickly can we make it happen. And a lot of times, even in their death, the narcissist gets what they get. And that's kind of how it goes. But there can be bickering from amongst survivors, and the primary decision making may fall in the hands of whoever has the most money and who can afford to foot the bill for whatever arrangements are finally made for the narcissist. Now, that being said, I will say I've also seen the opposite happen, where the narcissist had everything all buttoned up, had all of the arrangements made, had everything locked up and will written, everything done. everything prepaid for too, and very specific tasks and specific wishes expressed, done. However, even in their death, the most organized narcissist can draw out supply and create chaos and drama that can leave everybody in a state of confusion. And also, they may have their arrangements pre-made and then talk about their passing for decades and get supply, attention, adoration, praise during their last years that way. Oftentimes, the narcissist is not remembered or honored in the way that maybe they would have liked to be. And sometimes that's because there are relationships that have been severed. The narcissist has sabotaged a lot of friendships or relationships with family members, or because of the actual physical logistics of whatever arrangements end up being made for the narcissist, everybody's not able to make it. So maybe people who would have said some words or who would have come to pay their last respects are just unable to come because of their own commitments or because of distance, the inability to travel at the last minute, finances, etc. Another aspect of the logistics in the narcissist death that can be very difficult to deal with is cleanup. And a lot of times, especially if they've bounced around quite a bit, the narcissist may opt to store some of their things in a unit. And in doing so, when you go to clean up after them, you get to see kind of what was important to them, or just even the messiness of their lifestyle, you know, things scattered everywhere. It can kind of resemble a teenager's room, to be honest with you. And you're left kind of holding the bag like, okay, what do I do with this? What do I do with that? And honestly, you may even hear from people that they were dealing with as you go around to close out their affairs, closing PO boxes, closing down storage units. You may get to hear from some of the people who run or manage those units or those places what their dealings were like with the narcissist. And you may hear stories of their paranoia or stories of them, say, for example, sleeping in their storage locker because they had nowhere else to go. And they had sabotaged all of their relationships and ruined their chances of staying with any friends and family. So that can get thrown into your face when you go to clean up afterwards, in addition to the literal mess of the locations where you're going to clean up, such as a storage unit, or such as maybe even going to a homeless shelter to grab those effects that they had there. And you get to see a lot about what they were doing, where their head was at, and what they had going on at the last minute, or in my case, going to the gym to go pick up a gym bag, and then kind of rummaging through things and finding all kinds of things that no child would want to find out about their parent. Why does this happen? Why are these logistical nightmares happening? Well, one reason is because of fear. The narcissist does not want to talk about death. They don't want to think about the end of their life. They've spent probably the majority of their life feeling insignificant and being devalued by their own family, or you know, whoever, their own parents, their own family members. And so they really don't want to think about not being relevant, not being here anymore. It's too painful, it's too uncomfortable, or they've seen and dealt with a lot of death and they just are just not able to process and really think through even the practical aspects of, yeah, you know, you actually need to plan for this because there is going to come a day when you're not here anymore. The other thing is sabotage relationships, whether they're romantic, professional, acquaintances. Narcissists sabotage a lot of relationships, and they know this. They know that they've trashed a lot of relationships, even with their own children. And there's that not wanting to deal with that, or maybe in some cases they may want to stir up chaos and drama even after they've passed on, by having the children fight over the will or fight over the house, or, you know, gang up on the person who's the executor of the will or who's in charge of the estate. Also, we know that narcissistic and toxic individuals have very disordered ways of thinking. And so their inability to really deal with their feelings, to get in touch with that, and to process and heal, creates a lot of fear, paranoia, or just even a deadness where they, in life even, where they just don't want to deal with anything. They don't want to process anything. They don't want to feel. They don't want to accept. When you're dealing with the logistics after the narcissist dies, what do you do? Well, one is to take a deep breath. And I know that that may sound condescending or may sound cliche, but it's true. There are a lot of calming effects scientifically from just deep breathing. Number two, plan. This is the hand you've been dealt. Depending on how close you are to the narcissist, if you're a child or a spouse or that type of thing, or a widow, you may have to just plan as best you can for what to do in the wake of the narcissist passing. Three, as I mentioned, do the best you can. You know, we can only do the best we can with what we have to work with what we know, and with our resources that are available to us. So don't be too hard on yourself. Do the best you can. Four, I would say ask for help. There may be some people who really are able to not overlook or forget, but who are able to set aside some of the negative traits of the narcissist and some of the not so pleasant aspects of their relationship, to lend a helping hand, or maybe cut you a check or send some cash to help offset the expenses, especially if the narcissist died broke with no will or arrangements in place or prepaid for, or any kind of wishes expressed even in their life. And finally, get on with your healing. You've been through enough in your dealings in life with the narcissist, and it's time for you to take steps to focus on yourself and to focus on your healing process and to start your journey and to get on with the business of living your life. Some resources that I thought of that might be of help to you, depending on where you are in your healing process, and also what kind of approach you might want to take to your healing. Regardless, it's your healing journey, and I just want to offer a few things that you may want to look into and that may be of help. One is a grief share program. I went through a grief share program with my husband and my baby girl after my dad passed away, and it was very helpful. I was in a group with some other people who were trying to process some of their grief, and we all had different stories, and we were all in different places with our grief. But there was a facilitator, and we were given a workbook, and we gathered, I believe once a week we met to discuss different topics throughout the workbook and to share our experiences and to encourage and uplift each other. And I found it very helpful. Even my husband found it very helpful in grieving and really dealing with our feelings and processing everything after my dad's death. Also, talk therapy is another resource. You may have different feelings about talk therapy, and that's okay. You may have had some challenges in finding a therapist that could really help you to be able to process things, or maybe you just didn't like their personality, or you didn't like the office decor. Whatever it is, I would encourage you to persevere and to keep looking until you find someone who is right for you. And you may want to do some research, do some digging, maybe ask some other people, and keep searching until you find someone who you feel like you can connect with and you can really share safely and comfortably with, and get that healing process going. And then finally, I want to encourage you to lean on your healthy relationships. Lord knows you have dealt with enough toxicity in your relationship with the narcissist in your life, and you need healthy people who are going to encourage and uplift you on your healing journey. And you need to make it your business to spend your time and focus on those relationships and getting the encouragement that you need from them. And also just having a sounding board, having someone who can just listen or who can sit with you. You may need to cry. You may need a meal. You may need somebody to just do a Zoom call with, or to just talk, or to talk about something else. And that's okay. And I encourage you to pursue those types of relationships, because those are some of the things that are going to help you on your healing journey. Anyway, the logistics of dealing with a narcissist death can be very, very emotionally draining, but also physically taxing. And it can be very shocking. Some of the things that you find, some of the things that you find out about the narcissist and their final days even. And it can be a lot to deal with. It can be overwhelming. It can be expensive. And that can make it very challenging. It can make it a very challenging and draining time overall. It can also be a time of conflict in the relationships of the living. Whatever you're dealing with, whatever you're faced with, just remember to take those deep breaths, do the best you can, and know that you're not alone and you're not crazy. Know who you're dealing with, know who you are. Take care, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.